Hi everyone, welcome to this budget video for traveling through Egypt, where I'm going to break down the costs of my trip there to help you plan for yours. So I went solo backpacking through Egypt and Jordan for 1 month in January, and I filmed the whole trip to make a 2-part documentary series, which if you haven't already, you can check out my YouTube channel right now, or after this video. So my whole trip cost me $3,442 US, and I'm going to be doing all the main costs in dollars, but once I get down to the individual things in the country, I'll do it in the local currency, so for this case Egyptian pounds. Now let's break down that total. So my flights to and from the UK cost $841. Now if you are flying from the UK, bear in mind I booked those last minute because of work commitments, so you can probably get them a lot cheaper than that. In Egypt I spent 19 days there and I spent $1,523. Then it was $281 for my flights from Egypt to Jordan, and then I spent 9 days in Jordan where I spent $797. So that's an overview of the whole trip, but what I'm going to do right now is break down my Egypt section and show you how much everything cost. And by the way, one of the reasons I don't have all these costs coming up during the documentary itself is because it's just too distracting having all these price tags come up all the time. I want people to be engaged in the story rather than sitting there with a pen and paper. So I don't have it in the main film, but that's why I'm making these videos now. So get your pen and paper out and let's go through it. So for those 19 days, I had 4 nights in Cairo, then I got an overnight train down to Aswan, then I had 2 nights there, then got on a 2-night cruise up the Nile to Luxor, had 2 nights in Luxor, and then the other 8 days was at the Red Sea, staying in Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh and Dahab. Now just as a point of reference, if I take out that Red Sea portion of the trip, where I spent lots of money on flights, resorts, scuba diving and things like that, I've now nearly half the amount of money that I would have spent, down to $832. But anyway, let's go through the individual costs. Now the first thing you're going to be buying is your visa on arrival. That costs $25 US, which you can buy at the airport when you land. It's basically at the bank kiosk just before you go immigration. Get your visa and that gets you 30 days in the country. But double check the visa entries for whatever country you're going from because it might vary, I don't know. Now for accommodation, yes, I was doing a backpacking trip, but I actually stayed in a wide variety of accommodations. So this should actually give you a nice overview of what options are available. So the Dahab hostel in Cairo, that was $10.75 a night, and that was for my own private room, but a shared bathroom. Now in Aswan, I stayed in a guest house, the El Amin guest house, and this was $21 a night for my own private room. And the bathroom, yeah, it was shared, but it's like a shared bathroom in a house rather than like a stall bathroom you get in a hostel. Now the cruise, this was $65 a night. I just booked it through Amin, who ran the guest house, but I have checked later and you can actually get it on booking.com as well. And $65 a night got me my private room, all the meals included, and obviously the transportation, so it was an absolute bargain. Didn't include drinks though, so make sure you remember that. The one I was on was called the MS Royal Ruby Nile, but there's tons of cruises going up and down the Nile all the time, so you should have plenty to choose from when you're there. Now in Luxor, I was in a hostel again, the Bob Marley Peace Hostel. That was $7 a night for a dorm room, shared bathroom. And then heading over to the Red Sea, I stayed at a couple of resorts. In Hurghada, I was at the Sunny Days Resort, and this was $33 a night, and that was all inclusive, so all meals and alcohol. And then when I went over to Sharm el-Sheikh for 1 night, I was at the Baron Resort, and this is where I treated myself because it was $86 a night, but that still ain't bad when you consider it's all inclusive. Again, all meals, all drinks, although a couple of the bars weren't included in the all inclusive, which doesn't really make sense, but there you go. But if you're doing the backpacking thing and want to stay at the Red Sea at affordable accommodation, go to Dahab. I was at the Sinbad camp, which is basically a hostel, not a camp, but it cost $12.60 a night for a private room, and they had dorm rooms as well, even cheaper. So the thing to note with them is they're not on Hostelworld or Booking.com. You just have to go to their website, which you can just find by Googling them and it'll come right up. Okay, let's move on to transport. I spent $141 on transport in Egypt, and starting off was the airport transfer from Cairo airport to the Dahab hostel. This cost me $10 and I booked it straight to the hostel, nice and easy. Now my overnight train from Cairo to Aswan, this cost $23, and again I just booked it through the hostel because if you're a foreigner and you try and book the ticket at the station, they'll force you to buy one of the sleeper tickets, which costs $80, $90 or something like that. They don't let foreigners buy the normal seats, but if you get someone from the hostel to buy it for you, then you can get one of the normal seats, and no one questioned it once I was on the train, no one cared at all. So I literally just went to the front desk of my hostel and they sorted it and had my ticket later on that day. Now the bus from Luxor to Hurghada, I just booked that online at go-bus.com, cost me $7, super easy. The plane from Hurghada to Sharm el-Sheikh, that cost me $72, just booked that on Skyscanner. The bus from Sharm el-Sheikh to Dahab, just booked at the bus station, that was $2. And then finally the taxi from Dahab to Sharm el-Sheikh airport, that cost me $26, and the reason I paid for a taxi was just because of the time of my flight early in the morning. So let's move on to all the activities I did. I'm going to do most of this in Egyptian pounds because a lot of these you'll be paying for in cash whilst you're there. So The Egyptian Museum, that costs £300, and that includes getting into the royal mummy rooms and Tutankhamun's room. But remember, if you want to take photos at the museum, you've got to pay the extra £50. Now my day tour to all the pyramids around Cairo, that costs 500 Egyptian pounds, was booked through the hostel. That's paying your driver / guide to take you around to all of them. But then you still got to pay to go into each pyramid. So Dakhshur was £67, Saqqara was £160. The Saqqara guide I tipped, who sort of tried to give me some information but couldn't really understand him, I ended up giving him £50. Don't know if that was too much or too little. But the Giza pyramids cost £160 to go in, but it costs a lot extra if you actually want to go inside the pyramids there. Now the camel ride I got completely ripped off. I ended up paying 660 Egyptian pounds. Apparently you're supposed to pay like max 100, 150, so watch out for that, or just don't do the camel ride. So the total cost for seeing the pyramids for the day was $96 US, but if you get rid of the camel ride that was ripped off on, you're gonna half that price. Now Abu Simbel, to get the bus there and back, that was £160. I just booked that through my guest house again. The entry ticket was £215, but the photography ticket for there was 300 Egyptian pounds, which is like $18, and you'll need to buy that because if you don't have it, they'll make you delete your pictures. So total cost for that day was £675 or $41 US. Now when I was on the cruise, I went to 2 different temples. Komombo, that was 80 Egyptian pounds, and Edfu was 100 Egyptian pounds. Now when I got to Luxor, I did a big tour of all the temples in one day, and the cost of the tour for the driver and the guide was £160 or $10 US for the whole day, but then you've got all the entry tickets. So at the Chepsuit, we paid 5 Egyptian pounds for the tram from the car park to the entrance because we were being lazy and restricted on time, so you don't need to spend that, but it's only like 30 cents. Then the entry ticket was 100 Egyptian pounds. Then at the Valley of the Kings, we had another tram for £5, and then the entry ticket was 200 Egyptian pounds. And this was another one where you need a photography ticket, and this was £300 as well. By the way, the entrance ticket gets you into 3 different tombs, but if you want to go to Tutankhamun's, when I was there they were charging 1,000 Egyptian pounds extra. That's like $60 US just to go into that. Then we went to Hadu Temple, that was 80 Egyptian pounds. Karnak was 150 pounds, and finally the Luxor Temple was 140 pounds. So the total cost for that day was 1,140 pounds or $69 US. Moving on to the Red Sea, in Hurghada, I went on a scuba diving trip for the day. This cost me $72 US, and that included 2 intro dives, as well as snorkeling and all your food and drinks and stuff. Now bear in mind, I booked this through my resort, so you probably could have booked it way cheaper if you shopped around a bit, but I was just being lazy. On top of that, I spent an extra $30 hiring out their GoPro for the day because mine was broken, and then another $30 on paying for the underwater photographer to get all those nice pictures. Then finally in Dahab, I sort of day trip to the Blue Hole, which is basically just a taxi driver to take you there and back. That cost $5. And then the scuba diving I did there, that cost me $42 US. That was for 2 dives. One was a refresher and the other was a guided dive. And then the final section is all the money I spent on cash, which was another $496. This is on like food, drinks, I don't know, tips, odd taxis, whatever. But keep in mind, I wasn't trying to be super conservative with my money, so I was happy to spend money eating out and buying drinks and things like that. But people always ask how much does food cost in the country, and that's kind of like saying how long's a piece of string. But at the cheaper end of the spectrum, when I was at a Dahab hostel in Cairo, they had like a local takeaway menu we could order off, and we're getting things between like 20 to 50 Egyptian pounds, that's $1 to $3, dirt cheap. A meal out, you may be on average spending about 100 Egyptian pounds, like $6-7 US. That's just like a standard little restaurant, nothing too fancy. And obviously you can just keep going on further and further than there the more you want to spend. Now for beer, if you're buying a beer in a shop in Cairo, it's going to cost around 18 to 20 Egyptian pounds. But in other towns like Luxor or Aswan, it's harder to come by, so it's more like 30 to 40 Egyptian pounds. If you're buying it in a bar, it's going to cost you more like 90 Egyptian pounds. And that's how much they charge on the cruise for it, which is why I brought all my own beer from off the ship onto it. So I guess that's about it. That's a full breakdown of what I spent in Egypt on what. Next week I'll be uploading one for the Jordan part of the trip as well, so make sure you've subscribed and hit on the notifications to see that. If you want to support the channel, there's a couple of ways you can do that, apart from the obvious like, comment, share and subscribe. The music I'm using in these videos is from musicbed.com. If you want a free trial, there's a link in the description. And also, I've had lots of people asking if I'm going to start up a Patreon so they can actually support the channel financially. That's going to take a bit of time to set up, but in the meantime, I've got a PayPal link in the description if you want to leave a tip. And finally, don't forget to follow me on Facebook and on Instagram to get all the latest updates and pictures and all that stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.